Hi, everyone. I wanted to go ahead and make a quick video going over our final project for the semester, which is going to be the multimodal research project. And so what we're doing here, or multimodal public research project, to be clear, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be taking our research that we did for the last project, all of those sources that we collected on a topic, and then we're going to be sharing them with an audience outside of our classroom, okay? Now, you don't actually have to publish these or share them outside of the classroom, but the idea is that you could do so. So we have some examples here. You could make something like a zine or a comic, which we'll talk about a little bit next time, or next week, I mean, including a webcomic, by the way. You can make an infographic. That's something that a lot of people like to make. It's a good way to share visual data kind of quickly. You can write a blog post, especially if you did kind of want to write something a little bit more like an essay. A blog post can be a really nice way to get a little bit more practice with that writing. You can make a video for TikTok or YouTube, or some other service. You could record a podcast. And so these are just some options. I have a student in one of my classes this semester who's going to be writing a song for this project. I've had students in previous semesters do other types of things like make games. And so it's just something to think about. In terms of grading for this project, it really is going to be a completion grade. It's only worth 10 points. And so hopefully that's taking a little bit of the pressure off you when you're kind of thinking about what type of project you want to make and how you're going to make this work. But the goal here is just going to be to create some sort of format where you could share this research that you think would be effective or interesting. Maybe something that you're interested in trying out, because we're not going to have a lot of rules in terms of how I'm grading this for how things have to be presented, or how professional this has to be, or how long this has to be. And kind of speaking in that vein, let me go ahead and show you the slideshow for this week. It's just very brief, kind of going over some of these questions that you might have in regards to the project. So going over some of the potential genres. By the way, I forgot to mention, social media posts can be a good one too, especially if you want to do like an Instagram slides, thing where if you've seen people do a post and then you can slide through the different photos, and on each of those images, they'll have another fact, for example. In terms of the length requirement, there is no length requirement for this project. It's really difficult to put a length requirement on something that could cover so many different types of formats. And so, we don't have a length requirement. It's just going to be however long it takes to share information from 3 different projects, or from 3 different sources, sorry. And so I've had students turn in things that are very short for this project, like, maybe one infographic or like a pretty short comic. But then I've had students who've turned in like hour-long podcasts and hour-long videos even. And so there's like a huge scale, a huge spectrum. And it's really just kind of up to you how long it would take to share the information and how much time you want to put into creating something. I have some different examples here for how you would cite sources for this project. That is going to be part of the grade. And by the way, it's important to make sure that you cite your sources, kind of effectively, at least to the way that I would be able to recognize them, because you have to have 3 different sources informing your project to get full credit on it. And so you just want to make sure that you can show that work somehow, okay? And so it's going to really vary based on the type of project that you're making. So for example, if you're doing a video or a podcast, a lot of the time, the way that people share sources is they actually just say it. They'll say like, according to a study by, or they'll say, you know, um, in this article from the New York Times, they say blank, so there's going to usually be something like that. Sometimes you'll also see links that are shared in the caption of a video, the show notes of a podcast, and they'll literally just have something that says like sources and then just a list of links. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat going crazy in the background. Oh boy. And then sometimes you'll also see things like text on the video itself, right? Like introducing a source, for example. If we look at blog posts, they're usually going to be cited with links, again, but these links are going to be more embedded into the text itself. So it'll be kind of written into the sentence, the patent first spotted by Game Rant. And then if you click on this link, it's going to take you to an article from Game Rant about the specific thing. It says here, according to gamesindustry.biz, if you click on this, it's going to take you to, again, the article, video, whatever. where the information came from. Occasionally with blog posts, you will see sources listed at the end, but I do think that's a little bit less common. What I usually see here is sources that are kind of embedded in the text itself. And then with things like posters and infographics, usually we're going to see the text included at the end. Occasionally we'll see it in the text in kind of a spoken way or a written way, like according to a study from Pew Research Center. But a lot of the time we will just see it at the very bottom. And again, it will just say something simple like sources, colon, and then maybe the authors of the two different sources. What you may notice here is that we're not going to have complete citations a lot of the time. Most commonly, we'll have links, which will then make it so that if somebody wants to read more about this or find out where the quote is from, they can go directly to the source itself just by clicking the link. But you'll notice there's no MLA format here, right? We're not going to have it in MLA format probably. I know we just spent all this time learning it and trying to get it right as we were gathering sources. So hopefully that was some good practice for your future classes. But for this final project, it's going to just be important to make sure that you're sharing the sources themselves, that you're giving enough information that people would be able to figure it out through a Google search or by clicking on a link. But you don't have to put it in MLA format. So for some of you, that might be a relief. If you are feeling at all anxious about how to share sources, please feel free to ask. But for the most part, you can also just look at different types of text. This is kind of this text heavy slide here is telling you, look at different types of text. Look at an infographic, for example, which I have here. Look at a blog post, look at a video and see, okay, well, if they're sharing information here, how are they making sure that I know where the citation is coming from? All right, and then finally, I just have this assignment this week, community service art reflection, which several of you have already submitted. But basically what this is trying to get you to do is think a little bit about the types of text that you see out in the wild, like when you're walking to campus or while you are, driving around or while you're inside a, a library or something. All of these places have these types of informational text. And so you might just kind of start opening your eyes and looking around and seeing what are the types of texts that are being shared. And then of course, in online spaces as well, what are the texts that are being shared in these types of spaces? How are people sharing information with me? And hopefully that'll help you get some more ideas as you're thinking about what kind of text you want to make. All right, everyone, have a great week and a great break, and I will see you next week.